Knowledge is power only when shared. Now, I've had people, they'll quote it all the time, but it's scary, isn't it? And people are like, well, yeah, I worked my whole life and now I know all of these things. Why should I just be dishing it up? Because the side effect of sharing what you know is loyalty, dedication, retention, capability, force enhancement, force multiplication.
Folks, this is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick. I'm the managing partner at Epiphany Business Consulting, and I'm going to be your host today. And in our studio, we've got David Nordel. David, welcome. So, David, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
And I want you to, just let's get into it. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, me, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, simple guy, simple roots, Northern California, dairy farming family, grew up milking cows, middle of nowhere, small school, graduated with just barely over 100 kids. And that took an amalgamation of a whole bunch of kids coming from all over the place to make the high school that big. And lots of lessons, lots of farm lessons. And I think everything you need to learn in life is on the farm, from life and death to hard work and success and failure and Mother Nature intervening in your life. And there's all kinds of stuff there, and it's great. But there's also a little bit of myopia, right? When you got to go out into the world. And so I was 19 and joined the United States Air Force. I had an English teacher that wrote on my paper that I should go in the military because I'd never make it in college. So just hold that thought. Interesting, because I probably conquered her concerns with college and the military piece of it. But so I went in the military. I want to go in the Navy and be a plumber, and the Navy recruiter had a bad attitude one day. The Air Force recruiter didn't, and I went in the Air Force. And the Air Force said, you don't need to be a plumber, you need to be a medic. And I started my journey in medicine, which has taken me all through, getting my degree in nursing and doing shock trauma. And there's 4 combat tours in there. But 30 years, 6 months, and 24 days later, I left the United States Air Force. I mean,
Wow.
Over half my life, right? Over half my life in the military. Lots of lessons in there, lots of leadership, lots of being a young leader and screwing things up, and being an old leader and screwing things up. And that led to what's the afterlife? What do you do after you retire? You raised 2 boys in there. They're 30 and 28, so now they're fun, right? they're I used to tell them there's a reason why rental car companies won't give you a car until you're 25. It's because your brain's not developed. And on their 25th birthday, it was like, wow, they're like adults, and I can have conversations with them. So I'm really enjoying that. And you like me, so it's an awesome thing for all you parents out there that think that it'll never ever change. It's actually magical. It's like on the 25th day, they just wow, you're a human. Sit down, have a cup of coffee. I actually want to have your company, and it's awesome. Yep. So yeah. So that's, the most unqualified, you want to talk about winning and relentless winning. Mm-hmm. The most unqualified you'll ever be for a job is parenting.
Oh gosh. Right?
Yeah. And if you turned in your resume, somebody'd say you can't have a kid. Because you got nothing on there that relates to raising a child. Right? The grandparents would fire you. They would just say, no, you're not ready yet.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of amazing. It's probably the most responsible thing you do in life, other than your internal work. But yeah, it's probably, you're not more responsible for anything other than with children. So on the farm, you learn that, because it's never about you on the farm, right? The animals have to eat first and those kind of things. So it's an interesting thing. So, but in that journey, Rick, there's a lot of Dave. I've written a couple books, and they relate to the farm and to leadership and then to life, and really kind of talk through how those things go. And I've had some challenges, staying along this genre of the podcast, with the relentless pursuit of winning. Some people could say, well, let me log in here. Let's talk to Rick and Dave, and they're going to give me the checklist. No, there's no 5 House, 12 Whys, or 7 Habits that you can have to be a leader. And when I say leader, I'm talking about self-leadership. Yep. I'm talking about self-development, because you got to do all that first, right?
Yep.
before you can go influence people and do things. And you know, if you are if you're trying to win in business, you're trying to win in life, you're trying to win as a father, you're trying to win as a mother. If you're trying to win at those things, you got to be prepared to do the winning. Right, you just can't show up on game day and hope that you get more points than the other team.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You got to put in the work.
Every day.
And so along those lines, you know, I got, you know, I've had some challenges. One is PTSD that comes with my combat time, and we can talk about that if you've got questions. Along with moral injury, which is a less known phenomenon that about 40%, up to 40% of our veterans experience. And so, you know, through those struggles, having a near death experience that told me one day that I didn't need alcohol in my life anymore, and kind of waking up, what I found was a couple of things. One is I don't think the journey ever ends on this relentless pursuit. I don't. I think every day that you have to be working on things and tweaking on things. But I guess for conversation, what I'd like to throw out there, we can go down any of these avenues. We can go down PTSD, alcohol use. I would say I was an alcohol abuser, not an alcoholic, because I could walk away from it and be fine. But when I was around it, the people that I admire most, Rick, are the ones when I walk into their house and they've got half a bottle of wine on the backsplash of their kitchen, and I look at that and I go, "How is that even possible?" Because if I ever open a bottle of wine, it's gone. I mean, there's no half a bottle on the backsplash. So.
You know,
Um,
quitter.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's
And
terrible.
so and so 5.5 years now, try.
Yeah. Wow.
And it is
Congratulations. That's awesome.
thank you. And the clarity that comes along with that is just amazing. And it's given me the ability to do more things. We can talk about all that, but you know, when I look at the genre of the podcast, what kept pounding in my head is this thing about team. And not the cliche team, not that we're all on a team and you got to be a good teammate. That all matters.
Yeah.
It's about a life team. And you're
Tell us about that.
you're the CEO of your life, right? And
Yeah.
so you have total control over, like I like to write about, my company's called MaxFab Consulting, and MaxFab is maximum fabulous for the type of attitude that we should try to have every day because we
Love
control
it.
that, right?
Love it.
And there's a whole story that goes along with it, and the flag behind me relates to that. It's my combat time, and it's the attitude that I insisted on when we were doing combat trauma medicine in Iraq. And I think that there's 235 people that are better off for having lived under that mantra. But we
Fantastic.
control these things. We're the CEO of our lives, right? And if we want to win, we got to have a team. And so on your team, you got a lot of pillars in your life, right? You got your emotional pillar, your spiritual pillar, your health pillar, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to be healthy, who is on your team?
Let me interject. So you talked about being the CEO of your life. I mean, what does that mean? You know, specifically. I mean, it sounds it sounds a little cliche. I mean, just to be
Right.
honest with you, but
Sure.
digging into that, what does
Sure.
that mean?
Well, there's only one leader in an organization, right? If you're trying to accomplish something, there's one leader, and that's usually we equate that to a C-suite, right? A CEO or a president. There's only one leader, and you ultimately are the one that writes the checks, makes the final decisions, and you're ultimately responsible for stuff. Okay, and so with you, who you are, where you want to be, how you're developing, who you allow into your life at certain levels, who you invest in, who you sign contracts with, figurative and literal contracts with, and how much risk you take along the way by signing these contracts and letting these people into your world. If you said to me right now, "Hey, Dave, give me your social security number," I'd have 10,000 questions as to why you need my social security number, right? I would
Sure.
protect that. If our relationship was different and you said, "Dave, I need your social," I would probably rattle it off without even thinking twice.
Right.
Right? Because at some point in time, I've figuratively have a contract with you at a level that allows me to do that. And that's built on trust and those
Right.
type of things. So when you're the CEO of your life, a lot of times we go, "Oh, that was bad luck," or if he hadn't have done that, this wouldn't have
There we
happened.
go.
Mm-mm. That is a no.
Yeah.
It's if you're the head coach of a football team and you call a play and the guys don't execute the play, but the play was the wrong call. It was just the wrong call. That's on you, right? That is on the coach. Now, if the play was exactly right and the quarterback throws the ball too high and it gets intercepted, that's on the player, right? That's on somebody on the team. So there's two differences there. But yeah, you're the commander of your life. So if you're on a pursuit to win, whatever that is, whatever, if you want to be successful in anything, if you just want to feel good and be healthy, you have to command that. And that means that you probably need to, and I'm being flip here, but you probably need to hang out with people that drink spinach milkshakes and not people that eat and, drink 4 beers and eat 7 hamburgers a day. Odds are through that influence, you're probably not going to get to your goal, right? Because that's who's in your life. The other thing that CEOs do is they build their teams and they hire and they fire, right? And I think far too often we get really locked into thinking that people can never be fired from our team. And when I say that, I'm talking about people like your family, like your immediate family. Just because your immediate family is your immediate family, it doesn't give them the right to walk into a room, wag their finger, tell them, let them tell you everything that's wrong with you, give you an opinion, or affect any of your minds. No, if they're not healthy for you, then they're fired, Rick. They're fine. They can be your family, and you can have a love for them that is special, that is congruent with family members, but they don't get to be on your life team. Especially if they don't let you win, if they don't get you to a point where you're winning.
Sounds like triple chocolate cake, It's like I love it to death, but it can't be on my team.
Right. And you know what? If it is, you only let it on your team after you win, at the celebration, right? You don't do it during the journey, right? You tell yourself, if I lose these 10 pounds and I can lift, 20 pounds more and I hit these goals, then I can have my triple chocolate cake.
There you go.
I like you. Right? You got to give yourself permission to let those things in. But triple chocolate cake can't be the way you start your day. Yes. Right? It's just going backwards. So when you talk about success, I hear a lot of times I'll hear people when I'm facilitating something or in leadership groups, and people will say, I'm just not getting there, or we're barely in the green, but we're bouncing in the red, and we're not shooting through the top. And there's 2 questions I ask them: what are you afraid of? What's your fear? And what is so painful in your vision? What do you see that is so painful that's keeping you paralyzed? And who in your life is helping you navigate fear and pain? Because fear and pain is the growth area, right? We look at it as the metaphor, the analogy would be, I say, Rick, let's go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. My wife's done that. It's amazing to listen to her talk about. Let's go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. It's 19,000 feet, over 19,000 feet. Within the hour-long coffee that we talk about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, get excited about doing it, by the time we're done with coffee, we have come up with the 92 reasons why we can't. Right? Okay. Because people default to that. Because when something seems hard, you go, oh, it'd be really cold, and well, I'm this old, and how many miles is that? And I don't know if I don't even know if I can get that much time off from work. Whatever it is,
we come up with these reasons. Was my concern. Breathing.
Right. Exactly. Am I going to die? Right. Am I going to die if I go up there? Correct. Air is really important, by the way. When you take away people's air, they do crazy things. And so when you get into this mindset of always getting to no instead of getting to yes, you stop growing. And you cannot grow by yourself. You can't. There's a speaker. His name's Dan Clark. He's a motivational speaker. If you ever get a chance to listen to some of his stuff, it's pretty cool. World-class athlete, University of Utah, going to be drafted into the NFL. Tackle at practice, gets momentarily paralyzed on one side, can't play anymore, and goes in a ditch, right? Because that was his whole plan. And he goes in a ditch, and he talks about physical therapy. And he says, when I got hurt, the doctor told me I needed to go home and do this. I'm using my wrist, but do this, move your wrist back and forth 10 times. And he goes, if I moved my wrist back and forth 10 times and it hurt when I got to about here, He said, that's as far as I'd ever be able to move my wrist. He said, and then you insert the physical therapist into my life. And what do? They crank on it so bad that you call them bad names and you don't like them very much, right? And at the end of it, your wrist works like it did before. You'd have never got there without this person, right? This person
Yeah.
that was pushing you through the pain, helping you through the
I love
pain,
that.
and coaching you through the pain. So who's on your team? Who's your physical therapist? Who's pushing you through the pain? Who's encouraging you past the fear? Who's pushing you into the growth space, right? And helping
Yeah.
you walk through that. And who's not? Because the ones that aren't are distractions. And they, quite frankly, they need to be fired.
So, I mean, the question always comes. I mean, it seems like there's no, lack of bodies. I mean, how do you get the right people? How do you attract those people? Perhaps said differently.
Mm, I think that transparency and if you're, I don't know if you're an empath or not. I am. So it goes along with nursing, right? The Air Force figured this out. If you have the ability to be empathic both ways and kind of see where somebody's coming from and have transparent conversations,
Yeah.
people will figure you out and rally to your cause. They'll
Yeah.
glom, the right people will glom onto you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The people that are there for, you know, you have two types of people. You have the fuzzy woolly blanket that gloms onto you and makes you feel safe. That person is, they help you, right? They keep you safe. And you have the leech, and the leech gloms onto you to suck the life out of you. Both of them look identical until you have the transparent conversation, until you're fully transparent with somebody. So, for instance, stop drinking. If you have a aberrant relationship with alcohol, stop drinking. You'll find out more about the people in your life in a day. Walk into a room, quit drinking for a year, and then if you hypothetically could set this up, then take all of those people in your life, walk into a room, have somebody offer you a beer or a glass of wine, and say, "I quit drinking. I've been dry for a year." Your phone, it automatically, it is a delineator, and people will be gone, and you'll go, "Wow, those people were never what I thought that I thought they were." So you got to do interviews. I don't have a better way to put that. You kind of have to interview them. You have to transparently tell people what journey you're on and what you need. I had coffee with my physical therapist this morning. He just had shoulder surgery. He can't work. But the reason we have coffee together is through my journey with physical therapy. We got to talking about ourselves and what we need and where we're at in life, and we match. And we actually hired each other. We literally said out loud, "You are one of this many people that are on my life team, and this is what I need from you." And this morning, out of the blue, he said, "I need to have coffee. When can you do it?" I made some time straight away this morning. We had coffee for about an hour and a half, and he wrote me back and said, "Hey man, I love you, and I really appreciate what you do." And I said, it's really, really rare when you can sit down with somebody, no matter how well you know them, and you can feel the genuine mutual love and caring for each other, just in a standard conversation. So you got to be a little intuitive with that. But that all sounds, some people go, "Man, this Dave guy's all soft and squishy." It's not that way. Dave's just Dave. Dave's the leader of Dave. And so if I have failure in my life or somebody comes into my life and throws me off balance, I need to accept some level of responsibility for that.
Yeah. 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 It was interesting. You were saying before, about being transparent, and I guess that goes along with the vision and that sort of thing. I mean, it really plays directly into that leadership thing because
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, you are crafting that vision. You are determining the path to go. But
Yep.
it's interesting that when I was thinking about team, when you were talking about team, I'm thinking about people that I hire, people that I employ, but it sounds as though you're talking about, more than that. You're talking about just people around you that you're
Mm-hmm.
engaging with on different levels.
I work with a business owner here that is totally self-made. In fact, he walked into a situation where he wasn't getting a lot of help, and
Uh-huh.
he's really successful now. And I went to see him, and we were going through some stuff, and he said, "You know what I did this year, Dave?" He said, "I fired some really good customers." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "These guys were really feeding my bottom line." He
Yeah.
said, "But they were such a pain in the neck." He goes, "They had to go." He said, "Even though they had big work for me, and they were lucrative deals." He goes, "Something inside me said they had to go."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what's the result of that?" And he goes, "We're doing better."
Well,
He goes, "Because all of the time and effort it took to handle those people," he goes, "now I've got other clients, smaller accounts, but it still equals the same amount of revenue that are easy to deal with." And he goes, "So I had to," he goes, I almost cut my clientele in half. And I just told people, I can't deal with the way you do business anymore. So you've got to go.
that takes a lot of courage.
And it's right, fear, right? Got to
Yeah.
overcome the fear. And it sounds painful financially. And
Yeah.
he did it. And guess what happened? He got better because he went
It's
into the
got
growth
better.
space to do that.
I love that. I
And
love that.
so that's it's an odd dynamic. I tell people this was one of my philosophies when I was leading a lot of people. Knowledge is power only when shared. And that scares people when I say that. Now I've had people, they'll quote it all the time. They'll go, "Man, that's powerful stuff." And I said, "But it's scary, isn't it?" And people are like, "Well, yeah, I worked my whole life and now I know all of these things. Why should I just be dishing it up?" Because the side effect of sharing what you know is loyalty, dedication, retention, capability, force enhancement, force multiplication, many me's. And all of a sudden, you're sleeping better. You got more time. You can be more creative. You can be more strategic. You're less tactical. All that stuff starts happening. And you go, "Wow, how did that happen?" Because you offloaded all of this stuff. When you're the leader, people quit you. When you do sneak attacks on them, where they come in, they think they got a great presentation, and you go, "Well, we can't do that because of this and this," and they go, "Well, I didn't know that," and they said, "Well, you didn't ask." That is, I in the United States military, I saw that so much, and it was
Uh-huh.
just a total bait. It was a total bait job. I used to feel sorry for young officers because they would work their tails off to work with the data and the information that they had. They'd give a
Mm-hmm.
presentation, and somebody'd shoot two holes in it, and they would have done fine with it
Mm-hmm.
if they had the data points. But no,
Yeah.
somebody had to hold it back. And then I would call out senior leaders, fellow senior leaders. I go, "Why did you do that?" And they go, "Well, when I was his age, I had to go through the same thing." No, no,
That's the military
no.
right there.
Yeah, well, and it's in medicine. Watch brand new medical graduates go through the residency programs when they haven't slept for like 94 hours.
Oh
And
Lord.
you're like, "Can you send the guy to bed?" And the senior, the attending will go, "Well, I had to stay up 94 hours." I'm like, "The guy's dangerous or the girl's dangerous." I said, "They're legally 3 times drunk. So can you send them to bed?" "No, I had the pain." It's almost hazing. It's almost hazing. Don't do that to people. Just
Yeah.
because somebody stuffed you in a trash can when you were a freshman, don't do it.
Exactly. That's too easy. That's too easy.
Yeah.
So when we first started talking, you were telling us about like PTSD and your relationship with alcohol and that sort of thing. So my question for you is, I mean, I think on the outset, we would all look at that as like a negative thing, something that like could have really, really bankrupted you,
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've turned, I don't know if how has that turned into, or how has that applied to, or how has that created you into who you are now, and really what you're giving back to people.
Gosh, I love it. Boy, you covered. I mean, you just kind of, and the title of the first book is Giving Back and all that, right?
Nice.
This is really good. I was like, wow, it's almost like you had a little id going. Um, I'll make it really easy for you. Victim, owner. And as soon as I stopped being victim and said, "I own it." So if you had a big lump on your head, right? You can do one of two things. You can stay in bed, cover up with the sheets, feel bad, don't want to go outside. Or you
Mm-hmm.
can put a sombrero on it, put some lipstick, and when you meet people, just introduce it. Say, this is Leroy. This is Leroy the lump, and he's part of me. And then people don't even see the lump anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I do most of my speaking or in front of people, it doesn't even matter if I'm talking about just standard leadership. I always tell people I am an owner of PTSD and moral injury, and I am an abuser of alcohol who has figured that out. Because you talked about energy. And so this negative energy can really drag you down, right? And in the veteran world, sometimes that leads to self-elimination, which is something that I work on with companies so that we can build environments for veterans so that they thrive and they don't end up in a ditch. That energy is the same as any other energy, and it has a polarity. And so we have to learn what the polarity is, which is usually negative, how that works, and at what point in time when you start to feel that energy, do you switch the polarity and turn it into a positive and to drive it that way. Remember I said about MaxFab? That's so when you're doing combat operations, the helicopters are coming and the wounded are coming off of the helicopters. And sometimes those wounded are, 6-month-old babies. And you're dealing with that. That initial moment can be one of two things. It can be oh my goodness, this is the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my world, and set off negativity. Or you can look at it and say, I'm going to do the best job that I can. I'm going to have a good attitude about this. And the person that's injured is fortunate to have me because I'm this. Two different mindsets. Same patient, same situation, two different mindsets. And when I was working on those trauma beds, and I had all the people, they were a lot younger than me, all the people around me, I would say that. I'd say the best thing that's going on right now is the fact that you're here, because of the fact that you're here, these people are going to get to go see their loved ones because you're going to make it right. Whole different thing versus saying, can you believe all of that? I can't. Could you imagine if I walked into the room and said, I can't believe any of us are still have our noggin right. We should all be crazy after. Can't do that. So yeah, you got to flip the polarity on it, but it really comes down to owner victim stuff, and victims have, even back to our previous talk, victims have the 10,000 reasons or the 10,000 people that something didn't work out, and none of it goes like this. It's all out, right? And you got to do that internal check. I'm sure. I mean, you're leading people. I'm sure when something goes wrong, there's a couple things that we want to know, right? Who and were they trained? Were they capable of doing it? If your kid wrecks a car, right? You're going to go, my kid totaled a car in a snowstorm in Wyoming. He's barely 16. He'd been driving I should have never let him drive. You know why? He knew how to drive, but he certainly didn't know how to drive in the snow, right? So what do I do? Do I go beat up on the kid because he crashed a car? Or do I count my blessings that he's okay, don't care about the car, and apologize to him for
Yeah.
putting him in that situation because he should have had some better training?
Wow. That's huge.
And no, but I owned it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
owned
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I had 10,000 outs. I had 10,000 outs. And oh, by the way, the only reason that I didn't drive him to his event at school was because I had had a couple beers.
Ow. That's a kicker. That's a kicker. So, I mean, it's you've gone through, you've been through, I'm not saying you personally, but as a leader, you've been through a lot, and you've had a certain amount of training in finding those 10,000, reasons why not, et cetera, et cetera. How does one make that shift? I mean, that's huge, going from, oh, woe is me, I'm the victim, why do all these things happen, this client's going to leave, et cetera, to, well, these clients that have me, are fortunate because their companies are going to be better off, or whatever that's going to be. How does one really make that shift? I mean, it's cute to say, okay, flip it and let's go from being the victim to the owner, but it's got to be a process, because there's nothing in psychology that happens overnight, not permanently anyway.
I think there's two ways that it happens. One is that we stop trying to do, well, let me tell you the other way first. The other way is a sentinel event, a near death experience. When that happens and you have to sit down and really reevaluate your life, where you're at, what's going on, whatever it is. I almost lost my oldest son. My oldest son got run over at work. He was working at a tire shop, and it should have killed him. He's like less than the 1% of living. It should have killed him. He's doing great. He's doing great. He's serving our nation, and he's doing great. But almost killed him, and it changed him. It changed him completely. And he said out loud to me, because I had a talk with him. He said out loud to me, he goes, "You know, Dad, the way I was going in life," he said, "I think I needed to get run over to save me from what I was doing." And it wasn't like he was on drugs or alcohol, but he was just living too fast, and he was making bad decisions. And that slowed him way down, and it's made him a better father, and it's made him, more thoughtful as he goes in, and it made him more appreciative. Not indifferent than me throwing a big blood clot and almost dying from pulmonary embolism. So that's one. The second one is, and this is probably the piece that you're hedging on, is, in leadership development, where is that? Even though we go to developmental programs and we do all these things and we read and we try to grow, we only get to this point where we can be owners when we realize we can't do the journey by ourselves. And people will say, "No, I've got a team." And no. Who's your coach? Who's your guide? Who's your mentor? Some people will say, "The Lord Jesus Christ." I'm good. That's a great place to start. But you still need somebody earthly to do that. I'm a firm believer that every person that transitions out of the United States military, I don't care what you did. I don't care if you were in for 2 years or 200. You should see some sort of professional mental health counselor at least a couple times. Because you don't know what you don't know. You feel things, you act a certain way, you may not even be happy with yourself, but until you interject this person into your life that makes things more linear, that walks through things, makes them clear in your mind, you go, "Oh, that's why I feel that way. That's why I can't sleep. That's why I feel anxious. That's why my blood pressure's high. That's why I'm probably not as stable in my relationship as I would like. That's why I feel like I could. That's why how I could be a better boss." But you can't get there. You can't get there alone. And as soon as you figure out, because people know, when you're off, when you need to do better, and we try to do it by ourselves. Men are terrible.
Definitely.
Men are the absolute worst, and our ego and this provider mentality, and you can't show weakness and those type of things. And you put a bunch of veterans in a room, and they'll start off every conversation and end every conversation this way. Now think about this, with "I love you." Even when we first meet.
Tell me about that.
Well, when you go through the military experience and what this country's been through for the last 30 years with war, we are all affected intimately by somebody that we knew that was there 1 minute and gone the next.
Yeah.
And deep down inside, what we wish we'd have told that person was that we loved them, because we did. And those words coming out of a man's mouth for centuries are a no-no. Unless it's to their wife or their daughter. They don't even say it to their sons. And so you gotta be in a place where you can be that comfortable. That matters. That matters. I know that sounds a little deep, but that's a sentinel event. The sentinel event is that thinking back and how you feel. Because when you lose a battle buddy, you might as well have lost your mom, your dad. I just lost my mom, just over a month ago. It's identical feeling. I mean, it guts you. And when you hear people go, "Oh, his brother died," and boy, there's some regrets there because they were kind of on the outs and they didn't have that conversation and mend fences. Veterans, we don't leave that. We don't leave that to chance. We open and close with that always, even in written form.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's awesome. I've never heard that before. That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool, man. Thank you so much for your service.
Yeah. God bless you. God bless you. This country is worth every minute of it.
Amen.
regardless of where we were, what we were doing, or what national objective we were trying to carry out. It really comes back to our ability to do this. I like to tell people, Rick, we think we have problems in America, and if you, another thing that I've quit is mainstream media. I don't listen to it anymore. There's no news in it. It's a lot of rhetoric, and it can be damaging. But I tell people, when COVID, this is a worldwide pandemic. 2 years, a little over 2 years of our lives were completely disrupted in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
In most countries, when COVID was coming around, they were fighting for clean water, right? And air, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted clean air and clean water and enough medicine. They were fighting for those things. In America, we fought over toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anal cleanliness is our highest concern in the hierarchy of needs, we are doing pretty doggone well.
We are blessed.
Now, what did I just do right there? What did I just do? That was MaxFab, wasn't it? Because I could have talked about the 1,000 things that went wrong in the school or all those. No. Almost everybody had water. We had the best healthcare in the world still, even though we struggled. And we invented the vaccines, and we did it all.
Yep. We had information, and that was I think that was huge too.
And we shared it. Finally,
yes.
Knowledge is power only when shared. Those drug companies had a lot of knowledge, and that had not been shared up until that point in time. We should not have to have a worldwide pandemic for us to be able to share those kind of things. So
you're not kidding.
Yeah,
you're not kidding.
It all ties together.
Yes, I'm gonna MaxFab myself. Not say anything. So thank you for that.
You bet.
Yeah, this has been great. We're just about out of time. So give us your closing thoughts. What do you want to share most importantly with our audience?
There's a thing called Johari's window. JOHARI''S. It's made by two guys named Joe and Harry. You may be familiar with it. And it's about who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in there's 4 windows. There's 4 panels in the windows. And the first window is the known knowns. So I know that you're black and you're bald. You know that I'm white and have thinning hairline, right? Those are the things that we know about each other. And the next window is the things that you know about you that I don't. That's your secret stuff. And your wife has more insight into that window than I do, right? Because that's just who we are. It's just what we know. The other window is where we live a lot of our lives, especially in business, is the other people know things that we don't. So this is the Walmart surveys. Thanks for shopping at Walmart. How can we improve our thing? And you type out this whole, in aisle 4, there's a bump in the thing and the carts won't go over it and that kind of, and then you go fix it, right? And people call that improvement, right? That's where they think that they're working on their improvement areas. And that's really not where the improvement area is. The improvement area is the 4th window, which is the unknown space. And to go into the unknown space is where all the fear and pain is. And that is the growth space. And so we have to so I compel people, if you really want to win, you have to go into the growth space, which means there's a first time that we've done a lot of things in our lives. And if you really want to be successful, you're really amped up and really energized to be successful, you need to live in that growth space, which means you're always reinventing yourself, you're always trying something new, and you're taking a little bit of risk. And when it doesn't work out, it's about MaxFab. It's not about woe is me. You own it, you grow from it, and you move on. And so in my journey, I just told somebody the other day, I said, God, I've written a couple of checks, figurative and literal checks. I wish I could have back. But the learning that went along with it, I think might have been worth every penny, even though the bank account suffered or my time suffered or something like that. I mean, you have to do those things. So yeah, I just encourage people to really take a look at the things in their mind that they know where they want to go, ask themselves what's keeping them from doing it, and then go do it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's the only way to win. It's the only way to win.
That's right. That's the only way.
If somebody wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Hey, the best way is www.maxfabconsulting.com. So that's MaxFab Consulting, all one.com. My website's there. You can see my cheesy military pictures. You can get the podcast is on there. My blogs are on there. My newsletter's on there. But if you go to contact us, there's a place for you to you can click on my calendar and schedule up to 60 minutes of free time if they just want to chat. And then both the books are on there. The first book's Giving Back: Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone, and the second book is When the Cows Lie Down. Why People Quit You, the Leader. You can see it. You can see it in the back, and that comes from my farm time and the fact that when all the cows are lying down, you're probably going to have a meteorological event that's not good, so you better pay attention. So yeah, you can get at the books there, and I'd love to talk to anybody if they want to continue this, and it'd be great, especially my veteran brothers and sisters.
Awesome, David. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Awesome, folks. Thanks for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick. I'm your host, and we'll see you next time.